Welcome back. I'm your host, Hollie Woods, and this is Totally Tubular Trivia. We don't sit around aimlessly talking here. We get straight to the righteous nostalgia. But first, we have to settle last week's radical riddle.
Yeah.
The Starman's shadow with a silvery Egyptian bite was none other than John Blaylock, David Bowie's stylishly doomed vampire from the 1983 cult classic, The Hunger. To get that raspy ancient voice for the aging scenes, Bowie spent every night before filming screaming his lungs out to shred his vocal cords. Talk about suffering for your art, or just being a typical 80s rock star. Now, I've got 10 choice questions to test your 80s IQ. So grab a new Coke and let's go.
Question 1, movies.
In the 1987 movie The Lost Boys, what was the one thing that Grandpa could not stomach about living in Santa Carla? The answer is all the damn vampires. The movie was filmed on the Santa Cruz Boardwalk, where the producers had to hide the fact that the town was actually a hippie paradise. They traded patchouli for fake blood and leather jackets, and we all fell for it.
Question 2, music.
Which legendary goth band featured a lead singer who famously performed the song Bela Lugosi's Dead while hanging inside a neon-lit cage? The answer is Bauhaus, with frontman Peter Murphy. That performance basically told every 80s kid that if you weren't wearing enough eyeliner to look like a raccoon, you weren't trying.
Question 3, TV.
In the 80s sitcom Who's the Boss, Tony Danza plays a retired baseball player turned housekeeper. What was the name of the professional team he previously played for? The answer is the St. Louis Cardinals. Tony Danza spent half of the series shirtless. It was the only show where the housekeeper had a better tan than the boss.
Question 4, fashion.
What was the name of the 1980s accessory that was essentially a miniature sleeping bag for your calves? The answer is leg warmers. We wore them in 90-degree heat just to look like we were 5 minutes away from an aerobics class we never actually attended.
Question 5, pop culture.
Before dating apps, if you wanted to find a soulmate who liked hairspray and synth pop, you had to film a 3-minute clip for what high-tech 80s dating service? The answer is Great Expectations. You had to sit in a beige studio and talk to a camera like a hostage. The YouTube archives are a goldmine of garish sweaters, mustaches, and blue eyeshadow. Since we're right in the middle of our podcast, it's time for our commercial break trivia question. Let's see if you can identify this crunchy sensation.
Question 6, commercials.
In the original 1988 Keebler O'Boise's TV commercial, the jingle lists several words that rhyme to describe the chips. Along with crunchy, crackly, and roisterous, what is the final adjective the narrator uses to describe your reaction to the Idaho potato taste? The answer is, oh, boisterous. Wow. The commercial's jingle famously used the word roisterous to describe the chips. While it sounds like a made-up marketing word, it's actually a real English word meaning drunken partying. The Keebler elves had to stop baking O'Boise's in the tree because they were tired from partying too hard, making these bubbly crunchies.
Question 7, food.
What was the name of the 80s frozen treat that was essentially a stick of flavored sugar water you had to cut open with scissors, usually resulting in plastic cuts on your mouth? The answer is Otter Pops. They were 100% sugar and food coloring. Eating one made you look like you'd just finished a very messy blue raspberry-colored ritual in the backyard.
Question 8. Video games.
Which 1982 Atari game was so hated that millions of unsold cartridges were famously buried in a landfill in New Mexico? The answer is E.T., the extraterrestrial. In 2014, they actually dug up the landfill and proved that the legend was true. It's the only time a video game was literally treated like nuclear waste.
Question 9. Toys.
What was the name of the 1980s toy that was just a colorful ball of 2,000 rubber strings that eventually smelled like a pencil eraser and dog breath? The answer is the koosh ball. It was designed to collect every piece of lint and cat hair in your house in under 10 seconds.
Question 10. Celebrities.
In the 1984 film Friday the 13th, The Final Chapter, Corey Feldman plays a kid who manages to survive Jason Voorhees by using what bizarre psychological trick? The answer is shaving his head to look like a young Jason. At just 12 years old, Corey's character, Tommy Jarvis, realized that Jason had serious mommy issues and a soft spot for his own reflection. He shaved his head to confuse the killer long enough to land a machete strike. It's the only time in horror history that a bad haircut actually saved someone's life. You survived the vampires and the brown-eyed alien stuck in a pit. Congratulations. Thanks for hanging out. But before you head out to rent a video, I'm leaving you with a radical riddle to think about until our next episode. I was a 1985 disaster that tasted like a win, a secret formula swap that made the world's head spin. Some say I was a failure, but the classic was the plan, to hide a sugar switch from every single fan. What am I? Think about it. I'm Hollie Woods, and I'll reveal the answer next time right here on Totally Tubular Trivia. Be excellent to each other.